Hello, this is Katie. Welcome back to my channel. I'm going to be covering an overview of the new Spectrum Noir Triblend markers. I ordered these in two separate boxes. I have a link down below of how you should order them if you want these after I cover everything. And it will cost less as well. So the link down below, I'll go into what that looks like. But how I purchased them was two 24 boxes. There's a pink box and an orange box, and it shows on the side which ones come with it. So these are all different pens. There are 48 total. So basically what they did was, this is the entire, I have the whole Spectrum Originals set. This is the chart, so this is completely filled in. And what they did was they released basically new, reformulated, and new colors by way of these Triblend markers. If you have the entire Spectrum set, you have probably come across having a hard time trying to blend colors. So just as an example, like these three here under lavender, lavender 321, you would think would blend together, and these clearly will not. So we're going to go over that. They have come out with a much better solution color-wise, with 48 markers times 3 colors in each marker. There are 144, but that does not cover all of these, so we'll look at that as well. So this is the original Copic chart. I took this same chart. There's no chart for these new markers because they do use the same initials and numbers, but the colors are different. I would say about 95 to 99% of the colors are different. The second chart I took and filled out with these 48 markers, 3 colors in each. And so for example, there's a fair skin blend, which used to be called Flesh. I have crossed out the ones they've changed. The letters and the numbers are the same, like the initials, FS, but this is now called a Fair Skin instead of Flesh. And there are only 8, 7, and 6. So in the Triblends, you won't have 5 through 1. But previously, 5 through 1 may not have blended well with each other anyway. So that's the idea behind these, is to give you a better solution. Also, they have turned antique green into alpine green. Antique blue is now aqua blue, as it is a much closer, teal aqua versus antique. Another one is dull pink, which before was not really something that blended that well together. They have now done a 3-2-1 that blends a lot better, for a much better purple, and they changed the name to Dusty Purple, but it is still DP. So dull pink to dusty purple. And those are the 4 name changes. Now, this chart behind me is completely filled in, whereas with these Triblends, there are no green grays or blue grays at all. Every other family of colors has something in it. Like this one, for example, there are 2 IG markers, each with 3. There's a darker blend one and then a lighter blend. So I'll be showing you the markers. And that's not to say that you can't take the 2 IG markers if, for example, one Triblend marker, which I will open up here and show you one. If this blend, this is not a good example of what I'm trying to cover, but this one is AB 3, 2, and 1. There are only 3 ABs, but if you had the 2 IG markers together, you could use the 2 markers with each other. If maybe the blend within one marker itself was too close, you could use the 2 together as well. But these blends are pretty good. So I'm going to actually show you all of them. So the difference between the markers, I'm going to show you just the size. This is an original. This is just AP2. So lengthwise, It's kind of like a wand marker. It's a lot longer. Not a lot longer, but it is a little bit longer. And then the originals do have the nib end, and then they have the chisel end. I personally don't use the chisel end. I'm not doing, you know, comic book art. I'm just coloring in images that are usually pretty small. I don't need that end, and I don't use it. These markers have, I'm just going to set these aside. These have all nib ends. When you color, you want to start with the dark. This is how I color. I will go over what this little instruction page that comes with the Triblends tells you to do, and kind of explain the length of these. So your dark end here, you have a dark barrel, which is probably maybe half of this. So you are going to get less ink, but you are getting 3-in-1, and these are going to blend a lot better than the original spectrums. So you have your dark, and then you flip it around, and you have your mid. All three are the nib tip, and then you have a light end. And your light section is going to be your longest barrel, mostly because of how they tell you to color. So what they tell you is to apply the light color to the whole area. So if you're coloring in an image, and then use the dark to do the shadowing areas, and then use the mid color to overcolor the dark and a little bit past that, and then to reapply light all over. So that's why you have more ink in the light barrel. For me, that's just not how I color. I'll show you an example of how I color. I'll do a couple pens worth to show you how I colored these bunnies that I'm going to show you for the combos. So if you're going to purchase, the link down below is for the whole set of 48. They come in sets of 6, and there are 8 sets of them. That's how I recommend buying it, just because the way I bought it is going to be more expensive. So these 2 boxes of 24 were more expensive probably than the link down below, plus the carrying case. So if you want to get that, I believe there's also free shipping. Right now it's $150 for the whole set. I have no affiliation to this link. I just found that on the Crafter's Companion website. The Spectrum Noir website itself does not sell anything. Crafter's Companion sells them. You can buy them other places. I got one box at Dick Blick Art Materials, and then the other one on Amazon. But I would have purchased down below if I had done my research. But I did all of that so that you don't have to, and you can save money. So there are the 6 or the 8 packs of 6 come in like different types. So there's a floral, a portrait, natural, coastal, exotic, vintage, jewel, and woodland. So if you're only looking for a few of the markers and you can't afford the whole batch, you could buy them that way. Otherwise, on the website, you can buy the pink box. For some reason, they don't have the orange box, but this I would recommend first. It's the lighter half in the Essentials. This is called the Essentials. The orange box is called Deep Blends. So this is kind of the colors, but the lower numbers. And then the other one is a lot of those, but the deeper version of it. So you have like dark red blend, but then you have dark red shades, and these are even darker. But this one, for example, the aqua blue, which used to be called antique blue, the aqua blue only comes in this orange box and not the first one. You get like ice blue, blue turquoise, green turquoise is a good blend as well. So the Essentials box, the pink one, that is on the website, if you can afford about half of it, is a good one. Aside from just, you know, looking at the difference in these, I'm going to show you the comparison of, and I'll kind of walk through each of these. I don't want to spend too much time going through all of it, but I will show them to you. I was just coloring some bunnies with my original spectrums here, and I was trying to find good combinations, and I can with like a 2 blend usually, but it's hard to get a good 3 blend. So I'm going to zoom in here so that you can see these. So this here as an example, what I did with each set of bunnies is I have the original and I have a tri-blend of the same color. So the tri-blend tells you the same letters and numbers as the originals, It's OR3, OR2, and OR1. I just didn't repeat the ORs. And then this is the original of those same. So I grabbed the Triblend marker and then I grabbed the 3 matching markers, and you can tell that this one appears a much better blend than this guy down here. So the same goes for this one. And this one isn't a terrible blend on the original. It's just darker, and it's supposed to be kind of like a citrus yellow. I do like the lighter blend, but this one isn't bad. Some of these are pretty bad. We'll get up to these purple bunnies here. This is a coral blend, originals, tri-blend. I prefer this one. This red over here is just a little too dark, and I think the mid-tone, you'll see, I'll show you how I colored these as an example, but the mid-tone is too dark, darker than the dark one should be, whereas this blend here makes more sense. This was just another two-tone bunny. This one over here, the lavender blend, is much better. It's already difficult to come up with a good purple alcohol marker blend, period. Even in Copics, I have a hard time. So it's really nice to have these purples. There's one, the hydrangea blue, I don't like so much because I don't like the blue-purple look. But these two purples I really like. And this lavender, in comparison to what the original Copic numbers come out to be, is just, this is not good. So they have fixed that. The next one is the actual purple blend, which is just a little too magenta and a little too pink in there. And this is a much better blend here. This one here, these got separated, but these are the two. This is the pale pink, which the tri-blends is a much better showing of what pale pink should be, whereas this is kind of a hot pink, light pink, dull pink mess with the originals. Another one, the jade greens and the green turquoises. Here you can see, I don't know what is going on here, but how I colored the bunny is the darkest color, or the highest number essentially, and then the mid-tone here is the lightest, unfortunately, and then this is JG1, which is dark. So I left it this way to show you that it does not blend. This one is a much better blend, and it's also a good turquoise or teal, or shade of teal. There are 3 or 4 in here that are a good shade of teal to work with. This is the green turquoise. This to me in the originals is much more like a Kelly green, and this is a much better turquoise blend. And then we'll start down here. We have light green. This is a much better blend. The LG1 here is essentially non-existent. That's this area and the tips of his ears. I went dark, medium, light, dark, medium, and then light, and the same, you know, in his chest area and his tail. So LG1 is almost like a clear marker at this point. Not good for blending. So tri-blend, from all of these, the tri-blend is usually going to win. A couple of them I'm okay with, but in this one, for example, the golden brown, gold brown blend this is too orange. It's not a bad blend if you're looking for an orange, but in its name, it's not golden brown. So this is a much better representation in the tri-blends. The tan blend, I don't hate these colors, you know, separately from each other. They don't blend that well together, but this is a much better blend, and this is also good for like a tan skin tone as well. This combination here, similar to the light green I showed you, BT3 is just too light. These two are not only different, BT5 and 4 are too different, but BT3 does not help the situation. It's almost, like I said, a clear marker. Whereas the BT, which is blue turquoise, this is a much better, it's like a blue teal, more on the blue side. I really like that as well. And then this is the combo, the tri-blend for the hydrangea blue. It is better. This one has a little too much of like a neon hint in it. This HB321 was never a good combination, but this one's okay. It's just a little more blue. It's just not my favorite purple, but it does give you another purple option. The earth brown tones here, this is a very good blend, whereas this is just too dark, and EB 2 and 1 are too close to each other. Those almost blended with each other. True blue, 4, 3, and 2, very good blue. gradient here. This one, unfortunately, TB4 was the lightest, which is strange, and then TB2 was too light, and that mid-tone is the blue that you're seeing, so that is just not a good combination on the originals. We'll look at dull green. Not my favorite green, but it's a good blend and a good gradient of color. This is obviously just too dark, and then, you know, not close enough to that. And then this is more of a yellow green on the DG1, so the tri-blends are better on that one. Then we have ice blue. This essentially goes from blue, some turquoise green, to way too light. Doesn't even blend at all. So moving along. Then here we have IG 5, 4, and 2. I don't dislike this blend, but when you think of IG, which is ice gray, you picture something maybe lighter, and this is a good blend here. This is good for a dark gray blend. So on the originals, 5, 4, and 2 are okay. It's not, you know, atrocious like this one over here, but this is what I picture ice gray to be. So I think that's why they fixed those. There's also another IG blend. I believe there's 2 IGs. Yeah, we'll get to a darker IG blend, and it's good as well. Bright pink. These just didn't quite work together. This is definitely bright pink. There's another BP blend that's darker. We'll talk about that one as well. It has kind of a purple undertone under the darkest one. But this is still going to be a better blend than this one turned out to be. And then we'll look at citrus green. The darkest one, CG3, is a little too dull for me here, but again, these still blend better than what CG3, 2, and 1 should be. So that is not a good combo on the originals. And then we have brown gray, because we don't have green gray or blue gray. Blue gray is BGR. Brown gray is the BG, and there are no green grays in the tri-blends. So if you do get these and you have the originals, you can hold on to your blue grays and your green grays, just in case you want those shades. But this is a much better blend than these 3 are going to be. That blending gradient didn't work out. This one here is one of the worst. It goes from bright pink to orangish peach and to a light peach, which could still be seen in here. But as a fair skin blend, the tri-blend is going to be a lot better. And then light yellow. I would expect from light yellow is to be light, not dark, and then light, and then dark. So this is LY1 and this is LY2, that light midsection. So that just doesn't make sense. Okay, then we've got, I'm going to start at the bottom here and work the way up. We have pale pink, the darker shades of pale pink in the other box. And so this to me is a darker pale pink. This is going from like magenta to light pink back to another magenta. Doesn't work out. And then on the originals, I don't love this combination. I think the mid-tone is probably too close. The DR6 on both of them probably didn't change enough. So it kind of messes with the middle here. I don't know how often I would use this blend, but it is still going to be better than the original combination of those same markers. And then the darker blend on blue turquoise is a very nice deep turquoise, whereas this is just, you know, green to turquoise to blue. There's nothing making sense there. Then we have red brown. This is a pretty good combination. You could probably color in some more with the lightest to blend that out a little bit. This to me is more of a red brown than this. Actually, I'm so sorry. This is the tri-blend on the right. These ones I messed up. I do like this blend. It is the original, but this is going to be lighter. So I do expect a lighter color for 3, 2, and 1 versus the later numbers of a red brown. But this isn't a bad combination. It is just, it doesn't blend as well as this set here. That's the tri-blend over here. And then these, AG, these are the originals. Used to be antique green. This is when it was called antique green. They've now changed it to alpine green. This is a better kind of a bright green combination. This went from kind of too dark to too light. It didn't have a good, you know, gradient or process in changing. So then here we've got jade green, the darker of the jade greens. This to me is a lot better. This one, again, the mid-tone is the lightest. That's not going to help us there. The lightest should be the lowest number. That was kind of Spectrum's issue. The vintage blue before on the originals went from way too dark to way too light. This is a much better vintage blue in the Triblend. And then here, this bright pink. So on the Triblend, the BP7 to me has too much purple in it. So I don't love this combination. But again, it does blend a lot better. So this is just a color preference thing for me. I probably wouldn't use this combo a lot. But it's going to be a better blend than the originals. And then the darker earth brown shade, Triblend, is, I believe the mid-tone and the lightest, so EB6 and 5 were probably a little too close to each other. I would maybe add some more EB7 to my darker shaded areas. This one, EB6 was, the mid-tone was the lightest, and EB5 was darker than that, and that doesn't make for a combination. So this is still the better combo. I would just maybe add more EB7 because the 6 and 5 are just too close to each other. And then we'll look here at our muted brown. So this one here on the originals for muted brown 421 is just too different. Whereas this is going to be a better combination. It's not my favorite brown. There are other browns I prefer. But as a muted brown, which looks good on a bunny, the gradient is good there. And then we have the darker true blues. The originals are just too dark. And this is almost kind of a very dark green blue to a dark bright blue to a bright blue. This is a much better... I already don't like coloring too dark because you kind of lose your lines and you lose his eyes here. Here it's still dark and I can still see what's going on, so I prefer those. And then here, the pink violet, I believe the PV, I just want to double check, pink violet. It's not a great combination because the lightest I think is maybe a little too light, but it's still better than whatever is going on over here. Pink violet kind of probably focused originally too much on the pink. So it isn't another purple blend, but not my favorite purple blend. And then we have what used to be dull pink, and as I mentioned on the chart, just do not blend, to dusty purple. So they kept the DP, but they call it dusty purple now, which is much more like dusty Concord in the Distress inks, you know, more grapish. So much better blend and a new name. And then the burnt orange here. The originals are just, to me, it's not a burnt orange, but they're also not close enough together. So it doesn't blend very well. But the new one in the Triblends, they may not, I think that the BO2, which is BO, not B0, it's burnt orange. BO2 and BO1 are probably a little too close to each other. I don't see quite, you know, the blending between the last two, but the darker one is. So if this is going to stay this color, the BO2 should be a little darker than it is, and then BO1 could stay the same light color it is. So still better blend than this one, but could be a little better here. And then what used to be antique blue, AB321, this comes in the orange box. But again, you'll have all of these if you get the link down below and just get all 8 sets of 6. Is now called Aqua Blue, which makes more sense, and it is another good teal blend there. And then we have Antique Pink, which I really like, because to me this is an antique pink. It's kind of like mauve. Here, this is just, it was never going to work. And then over here we have the darker corals, which is really just an orangey red, which is what you would expect it to be. And over here, it is red, but it's not a good blend. They're almost all... The CR10 is the lightest, first of all, when it's supposed to be the darkest, and the other two just blend too closely, so it just looks like he's a solid red bunny, rather than having, you know, an ombre situation. Then magenta. So here, it went from magenta to like a bright purpley pink to a very pale pink before in the originals, and that's not how that should be working. So this is a much better tri-blend, if you will, of magenta. And then the last page of bunnies, and I'll be coloring in a few to show you how I did them, and I'll use a couple of the Triblend markers. This is another green. I don't like this green just as it is, but it is a yellow green, and it's kind of a dull. I think the blends are very similar. I think that YG1 and the Triblend is maybe a little bit lighter. YG2 and YG1 are probably too close. So this is probably the one where it's almost the same between the two. So, I mean, go with the Triblend. They're going to be pretty similar there. Not a green I'll probably use very often just because it's not, I don't know. I don't like it. Then we have the Tan Blend. This is a much better gradient on the brown than dark brown, darker brown, and then more of a reddish brown. This is just not working here on the originals. And then we have Gold Yellow Blend. And this is what I would imagine for a gold yellow blend. This is more orange to me. And not only that, it goes from kind of a brown orange to a bright orange to a dull something brown. This is a much better situation. And then here, the gold brown blend. These are probably a little too close. This is still, I mean, it's not great. It goes from brown to orange to another orange. This is a better blend. I would maybe add a little more GB10 to your shaded areas, and then maybe just a little more of the light, because it does kind of blend together, but it's still going to be a better situation than the same markers of the originals. And then here, these two sets here are darker shades of our ice gray and our brown gray. So the ice gray here is, the only problem is that IG6 is darker than any of them. And it's not supposed to be that way. We want to go from 9 to 8 to 6. This is a good gray blend here for your darker ice gray. And then brown gray, this is going to be better. This is a little too dark to too light. So you get a better gradient there. So that is all of them. I'm going to show you a couple of these markers. I'm just going to grab a random one. I'm going to show you how I colored these. So I start with the dark end. So this is our purple blend, PL4, 3, and 2. So this is how I colored the bunnies. I went down the side, up into the ears a little bit, and then down the side here, the top of the tail, under the neck, and down the side there. I went out of the lines a little bit, but we're just showing this as an example. So then the mid-tone, PL3, I'll take some of the dark and blend that out. Go over the dark, again out of the lines, sorry. You can usually use any alcohol blender marker to push that out. If you go out of the lines, I'll show you that as well. A little bit more of the tail. And I don't mind having a shorter piece of marker to work with. It is a little stubby, but that's going to be the shortest that you work with. And I recommend just recapping after all of it. I wouldn't pull it apart just in case you flip-flop them and mix them up. I'm not sure how you would, but then you've got your PL2, the lightest. And we're going to fill in and go over the mid-tone a little bit and fill in the rest. So I'll fill in this space and just go over it all again. Oops, I went out again. Probably color a little slower. This is just me being not careful. So fill in the rest of that white space and also go over all of it to reblend it again. And then you can take your Spectrum blender, you can take a Copic blender. I was using my Copic blender, but you can use any of them too. Essentially, you're using the clear marker to erase mistakes most of the time to push that color back in. Okay, so that is the PL purple blend. Now I will color one of them how they recommend you color it. So I'm going to take the TB blend, that's our true blue, and the names are on either end. This will show you your dark end, and then the lighter cap is your light end. So if you do misplace the caps, that's where those go. How they recommend you color is to color the entire area in the light color first. So we will fill him in. And this is just, it's never how I've colored, even with Copics, any alcohol markers. I just prefer to start with dark. Some people find this easier when it comes to shading, and that's how the instructions on these tell you to do it. So they tell you to cover the whole thing in the lightest, which is why, again, this barrel is longer with more ink. Then I'll do the same dark areas. And some people find this gives them a better blend because you've laid down that base of color. But to me, it's just not how I prefer to color. So it's entirely up to you. Then we'll use our mid, kind of blend that out a little bit. Again, going over the dark a little bit and then bringing some more out into the light, and then we'll go back to the light. Hopefully this isn't moving you around too much. And go over the light again. And go over it a couple times if you want. So it's entirely up to you how you do it. But this is a good set for beginners who don't want to have to figure out, you know, not only don't want to spend the money on Copics, but have to figure out which colors are going to go good together. This is a great set. Hopefully I covered everything. Any questions you have, go ahead and ask me below and I can answer. Again, the link below is for the Crafter's Companion website. I don't have anything to do with the link. I just want to make sure that you have the easiest way to get these if you want them. And again, if you do already have the Spectrum Noir set, hold on to your green grays and your blue grays. And again, there are still some missing, like, you know, IG1, IG3. So any markers that you want to hold on to, obviously hold on to them. It is missing this whole section, but like I said, a lot of these aren't going to blend together well anyway. But if you can get them to work across color families, then great. If you don't have any alcohol markers, I think this is a great set to start with. And if you want this chart to print out and color in, just send me a comment down below and I will get that over to you somehow. So thank you for watching, and hopefully this was helpful. And again, I created this video because there was just so much confusion about these markers and I couldn't get enough answers, and I wanted to be that answer if I could. I did have one channel and a video over at Coloring Bliss where she was sent, I believe, the pink box, and she had purchased a few individual markers, but she hadn't tried them or opened them yet. So she went through and she had some originals and she was finding the colors were very different. So that's how I started to figure out the colors were different, and that they essentially released these as new colors in the form of Triblend markers. So they've reformulated and the colors are for the most part all different. And I just wanted to make sure that I covered any questions that people had. So I wanted to get another video out there. If you have any questions, let me know, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.